I've been thinking a lot about the concept of dopamine detoxing, but not in the normal way, so just watch for another minute and decide if you want to watch the rest of this or not. It's the concept that I have discovered recently of enjoying the mundane moments of life, the moments that might have existed before all this stimulating technology existed, right? So if you don't know what dopamine detoxing is, or you're not familiar with that kind of technology, or no, sorry, vocabulary of that kind of thing, it's basically the fact that the technology and the modern world around us is very, very stimulating, and we get addicted to it, and we get so addicted to it that normal life feels boring in comparison, right? So we just go back to it more and more, and it tends to have a negative effect on our productivity, on our mental health, on our physical health. It really has a negative effect on people in general, and so people have there's a trend of stepping away from that called dopamine detoxing, and it's where you do things such as step away from social media, step away from YouTube, TikTok, and these media websites, and live a less stimulating life, right? And you may or may not have heard of this. You may or may not have watched other people like me in the self-improvement space talk about, oh, you should quit your phone, you should quit social media, you should quit Instagram, things like that. But I don't ever really see anyone talking about the fact of the experience, right? How does it feel to do that? And how do you get into a zone in which you are completely content living without those things in a world in which those things exist, right? So in particular, I'm going to skip past the details of like how you might do this. I might talk about that in another episode, but for now, I'm going to talk about the things I've been thinking about recently. And that is the fact that, well, what are the alternatives? Well, that's the question that comes up here. What do you do with your time once you quit social media, once you get back those 12 hours of screen time that you've been spending on your phone? What do you do with that time, right? One thing you could be doing is reading books, listening to podcasts, right? Listening to radio shows, music, right? Or just not listening to anything, being comfortable in silence, just sitting in your chair with nothing but your own thoughts, going for a walk in nature with your dog, and not bringing any tech apart from your house keys. And that's it, right? How does that feel? How is that not boring, right? I know that some of you can't even imagine what it's like to go for a moment without your AirPods in your ears and, connected to something that's technologically, something technological at all, right? But it's something that is truly valuable, that I have found valuable in my life, right? I have found in my times, especially recently, knowing the fact that I could put a podcast on when I'm cooking dinner, for example, that I could bring my earphones out when I walk my dog, that I could, have something playing in the background when I'm cleaning my room or something like that. I could be doing that, but I just choose not to because I know that I need time in the day, or I do better with time in the day where there's no stimulation or no extra stimulation, right? So I have come to appreciate cutting up my dinner in silence. I have come to appreciate walking my dog in silence and listening to the sounds of nature instead. The trees rustling in the wind, or today it was pretty calm. Noticing the actual silence, which is pretty rare in nature, right? And noticing the more subtle sounds. My dog panting behind me, and the crunch of the leaves. It's autumn now in England, and the leaves are covering every surface of the ground that I walk on. And just to take that in. And the view of the valley that I see when I go on the walk, and the trees in these like golden, red, orange colors, taking it all in, speaking to people, socializing. That's another thing about earphones that I don't like too. It makes you antisocial. It makes you very standoffish. It makes it so that other people are afraid to talk to you, and it's a clear signal from you to other people that I don't want to talk to you because I've got more interesting stuff in my ears right now, right? And when you're used to that, when you get into a zone where you can sort of, if you do have to use social media, for example, you can catch yourself and think, okay, I only need this to DM this one person. I don't really need to do anything else here, and log off the app, right? And do things like change your phone to grayscale so it's less stimulating, for example, right? Or have app timers on different apps on your phone so you spend less time on your phone. Whatever it is that you do to lessen the stimulation effect of this modern technology, you will notice this dramatic change in the way that you experience life. You will be able to sit down and listen to an album, for example, and just listen to the album. Just listen to music and notice all the instruments. Oh, that piano sounds so good. Is that a saxophone? Wow, that's cool. That drum beat. And you could just like, not even just picking out instruments, it's just like letting that wash over you and listening to the music for the sake of listening to the music. Which sounds so bizarre now, because music is just the accompaniment of other activities. That's what it's like now. Music is just what I listen to when I'm at the gym. Music is just what I listen to when I go for walks. Music is just what I listen to when I, clean my house. It used to be a normal thing back in the day, in the 70s and the 80s, just to sit down and listen to like a vinyl record. Just that by itself. That would be a pastime. That would be an activity you'd do. But now we don't ever really appreciate music for music, unless we're specifically at a concert or something like that, right? Just now, this evening, I can't remember how I came across this, but I came across a song that I really like. Just the two of us, Bill Withers and George something. Can't remember who was the creator of that song, but I just sat on my sofa, earphones in, because it was quite loud in my environment. People were just kind of talking and things like that. So I just wanted some time to just like appreciate that song, because I knew I liked it and I knew I wanted to I just wanted to listen to it. Sat on the sofa, closed my eyes, and played the song. And I can't describe to you what that is like, but except the fact that it was so entertaining to me that I almost couldn't believe it. Right? Like, had I been carrying on the path of constant stimulation all the time, that would have been just a blasé moment. Oh, it's just a song. What are you talking about? Right? But because I've put the effort in terms of making my life simpler, making my life less stimulating altogether, these little moments stand out so much more for me. Something as simple as listening to one song, right, is like a memory in my day. Just sitting there, closing my eyes and just listening to that. I don't know what my family would have thought walking past me as I was doing that. But it was a moment for me. And I enjoy those moments. And I enjoy those moments where I go out to walk my dog, even though it might seem boring to the average person. To walk the same route every day, to interact with my dog, to interact with other people and their dogs and have those conversations. That's what truly means something to people. Like, do you ever feel a sense of fulfillment and meaning after you've scrolled through Instagram for 3 hours? And yet you say it's better to do because it's less boring than, walking a dog and talking to people. Like, does your argument really hold up there? I'm talking to a hypothetical person. I'm not saying that you are responsible for this, social media addict of a personality. But the argument, it stands pretty clear. And I know even after you hear this video and even after you might listen to people talk about these things, you'll go back to it because it's very addictive. These companies are like billions, trillions of dollars investing into addicting you as much as possible, and their morals aren't so, solid. They don't really care. The bottom line is what they care about. For the shareholders to make the most money, the most profit. What they care about more is to show you more ads. And how can they show you more ads? To keep you more addicted, to keep you on the app longer. And that is the truth. And the more you realize the somewhat morally dubious and potentially evil reality of what that is, the sooner you can break free. And just having that awareness, like I said before, even if you have to have these apps in your life, right? Because I hear different excuses. People might have in my case, I have a business that might benefit from, organic lead generation, which basically means I grow an audience on Instagram or YouTube, and that might help me, gain some clients. If that's your excuse, if it's that, your friends exist on social media so you can DM them and communicate with them on there. Look, whatever your excuse is, okay, you might have to have social media on your phone. Let's move past that as an excuse. Just being aware of it. Being aware that this is a company, this is an entity that is trying to hijack your brain. Just being aware of that will help you use that less. That app, that social media platform, whatever it is, right? Being aware that when you go to, for example, the For You page on TikTok, I'm not sure if it works the same as it did when I saw it whenever this was, years ago, or the Explore page on Instagram, for example. And you see these highly suggestive, highly provocative images of, if it's a man's feed, then it's like a, semi-naked women. Or if it's, kittens or dogs, and just if you go on Twitter, it's like horrible accidents and really traumatic and horrifying images that just draw you in and really want to make you want to know what's happening next in that video or that reel or that TikTok. Be aware of that. They are trying to hook me, right? It's like telling the fish that it's being fished, right? So the fish can look out for the hooks now. It's like, oh, that's a hook. I probably shouldn't bite on that worm because there's a hook in that worm, right? So at least have that awareness, right? I often tell people, social media is probably not a good idea to have on your phone, right? But I know that is not realistic to expect the world to quit social media overnight, right? But at least be aware of it. At least be aware of it. It makes a big difference, right? Be aware as much as you can. Be aware when you're on the app. Be aware when you're off the app. Look at your screen time and see, categorize by app, which app is the most you spend on, right? Right. So right now for me, it's the Audible app, right? And that's how I read books. And that I'm fine with that. If reading books is the most screen time that I spend on my phone, I'm fine with that. Instagram's like a couple apps down. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm not spending a lot of time on Instagram. I'm not spending a lot of time on Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever it is that addicts you. Have an awareness of it. And have an awareness of the motivations of these companies because they don't have your best interests at heart. And sorry to talk about such a negative thing for so long. Let's get back to those positives, right? Because those moments... So, as I said about that Instagram moment when you're sitting on the toilet for 3 hours, you're not proud of that. It doesn't fulfill you. You feel horrendous. But on the other hand, there are the experiences of reality. Walking your dog and reading a book are simple examples. You might, be training jiu-jitsu. You might be learning to dance. You might be meeting the girl of your dreams. Someone who might be your wife someday. You might be meeting people that you wouldn't have met otherwise. Talking to people who are well outside your age range. Talking to 70-year-olds and learning, life experiences from them. Volunteering with people who are different from you. Having experiences where you don't know what you're doing a charity challenge somewhere, helping people in other ways, starting a business, and talking to people in real life. These are the experiences that you can't deny will bring you actual real experience. It can be anything you think about, right? Anything you think about doing in the real world, right? So the more you extricate yourself from this kind of fake reality of Instagram and the fake reality of what modern technology offers us, and put yourself more into the real world of real emotions, real people, real feelings, real activities, the better you will feel. And that's a promise I can make to you. Like, genuinely, I felt it in my life, and I've helped so many people feel it in their lives as well. And it's something that you will not regret doing. So think about these moments day to day. Whenever you're there, whenever you're kind of experiencing something that is, you're kind of being sucked into the world of your phone, your laptop, whatever it is, just think, okay, just step back and think, okay, I'm just watching for too long, aren't I? I'm just getting sucked down here, right? Let me just take a step back and, go for a walk or something like that. And maybe the next time you find yourself putting your earphones in when you go for a walk, or maybe listening to a podcast when you could just be experiencing the moment for what it is, just put those earphones away, leave them at home. Leave your phone at home. That's what I do when I go for a walk. I leave my stuff at home. I go with just me. And if there's people in the house, I go with nothing. Just me and my clothes, that's it. I don't even bring my keys, because if there's someone in the house, I can ring the doorbell and get back inside. The only reason I even bring a key is when no one's home. So the sooner you do that, and the more you do it in your life, the more experience you will have of these pleasant experiences. And it will be boring to start. It seems boring, and it is boring probably, because your tolerance for stimulation is way up here. But as soon as you keep doing these things, you will see the beauty in doing them, and you will have these memories that will stay with you forever, and a fulfillment that lasts a lifetime. So think about that, and let it influence your life. Because it is real. And I don't know if I can communicate it more without beating this dead horse here. But it is something I've been thinking about, and something that I really, really want to send a message out to the world about. Right? Because this is huge. This is I've always loved returning to older technology, older kind of lifestyle. And part of it is due to this kind of thing, this kind of technological hijacking of our psychology from these mega corporations. But a lot of it is also to do with this kind of generational nostalgia, I guess. Or perhaps a better word for that would be a species scale nostalgia for something that we used to have, something that we used to be. We used to have a lot, closer connections. We used to be a lot more closer or tight-knit in our societies, and we used to help each other out. We used to rely upon our neighbors and things like this, and that's disappearing now. And communities are disappearing. Right? And we don't necessarily know what part of society is destroying that, what part of society is making that deteriorate. But we're seeing that, and we're kind of looking back and thinking, and kind of working it out and thinking, okay, here's why that happened here. And here's the effect that this change has happened, change has had on society. And that's part of the reason why I like the old way of doing things sometimes, right? Even though it's slower, even though it's like more deliberate, more kind of clunky, and it's a way of doing things that we have known to work for a long period of time. That's something that's very reassuring. I'm not saying that you shouldn't embrace something that's new just because it's different. But I'm saying that you should be careful about the technology that we know, right now we know, to be harming us. And you should be wary of whatever comes next. This is just what we know. The social media and things like this, we know it's bad for us, and we still have a hard time quitting it. We still have a hard time accepting that in our lives and thinking or acting upon it. Who knows what comes next after this? Is it a virtual reality world? Is it sort of like Ready Player One, where everyone logs onto this virtual reality and they kind of spend most of their days in there, and it's addictive and things like that, and we know it's bad for us, but we keep playing it, we keep going on there, right? And scarily, it's kind of moving that direction. And all I say is for you to be careful and think about it, right? The common theme with all of these episodes here, and what I do with my channel, what I do with my businesses, is to keep thinking. Start thinking and keep thinking about whether the options and choices in your life are the right ones. Keep thinking about whether you want to keep going down a certain path or not. Keep thinking about whether you want to stay addicted to something, or what the motivations of a company are, or an app are, or a social media platform is. And think about whether you want to surrender yourself to that, to sell your soul to that, because to sacrifice your livelihood to that. So without going back and forth too much and repeating points here, I just want to say, from my experience, it is very lovely to extricate yourself from that. I'm not saying it's a one and done thing. You will keep having to fight this battle. You will find yourself drawn back into it, and maybe you might get back into it by accident, and you might have to extricate yourself again. Just like you might get addicted to cigarettes again after you've quit. It's a possibility. But I urge you to stay away. And I urge you to try your best to quit again if you do get back into it. Very much the same with any kind of addiction. With drugs, with cigarettes, with social media, pornography, things like this. It's very much a similar thing. But people don't see it that way because it's really well accepted in society. It's like alcohol. Alcohol is a very, very bad drug. But because everyone does it, people don't seem to care. And social media is the same way. In fact, even more so, I would say. Because everyone's on it, no one really seems to care about the negative effects of it. And so we're just kind of like, we know it's bad, but like, it's fine. We shouldn't worry about it too much. So all I ask is that you be aware. And I can't wait for you to experience the benefits and the real, tangible, great, fulfilling feelings that you will feel once you make that change and stick to it for the long term. That's going to be something great for you if you choose to do that. So good luck on that journey. I feel like I want to say more here, but I know that I've repeated my points a little bit. It's just a lovely feeling. I know it seems weird, just like having a euphoric feeling from listening to one song on your sofa. That sounds weird. Having an amazing, fulfilling feeling after walking your dog in nature, that sounds weird. But believe me, these are great feelings. Sitting down by a fire after you've, hiked a mountain, these are feelings and memories that I have in my life that are times when I didn't go on my phone for a couple of days. I remember specifically sitting in a pub in somewhere in the north of this country, and we'd hiked some kind of big hiking trail. We'd come home, my socks were wet. I think it was snowing that day on the top of that mountain, and my socks and boots were wet, and I was drying them in front of a fire that was in a pub, and we were eating a meal, and it was great, and it was fantastic. And I remember that memory because none of us had our phones out. None of us were doing anything like that. We were just in a remote location, enjoying that moment. That's one of my favorite memories I have. simple, mundane, boring things, if you want a life full of memories and a life full of well-chosen moments and really golden memories, you will not find it scrolling through a social media app on the toilet. You will find it doing those mundane things, those seemingly boring things in everyday life. So I hope that's a transition you can make, and I hope that you'll feel those feelings and have those memories in your life. Thank you for watching. Keep thinking and take care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.